One
If you
star
don't,
though, that's low, man. Hello and welcome to Real Film Snobs. I'm Angela Yeager. Returning once again is now my regular co-host, Ernie Quiroz. Welcome to the show, Ernie.
hey, thanks for having me again.
And
Anytime.
yes, and Ernie has been hard at work at the festival circuit this fall. You're seeing lots of great movies, way ahead of me, but he was gracious enough to review some 2021 movies that he saw probably a while ago, but I'm catching up now as things are starting to hit theaters and streaming channels. And so we're doing a catching up on 2021 episode. We could probably do like 10 of these with the amount you've seen alone. Based on what I've seen on your Letterboxd anyway, it looks like, you saw what, 500 movies in 2021, something like that?
I'm actually, and those are only on Letterboxd. There's a lot of like open submission stuff that's not on there. So I'll probably get to 800 by the end of the year.
Wow, and that's just movies that came out this year. So I'm
That's just, yeah.
meanwhile, see, I'm well-rounded. I'm also watching things on Criterion Channel and older films, so
See,
not just brand new movies.
I wish I had the time to do that.
Yes, I know. Well, I'm not doing film festival, so I know your next big one is what, in January with Santa Barbara. Is that correct?
Actually, no. Well, that's in March. That
Oh,
they moved.
March.
Yeah, they
Oh, I
moved it.
forgot. Okay.
Yeah, Palm Springs. You might be thinking of Palm Springs, which I do go to.
Okay, so you're doing
So
that one in
yeah.
January.
So there's just there's I lose
Palm
track.
Springs in January and Santa Barbara in March. Boy,
Yeah,
it's a hard
and
life, but
then
somebody's got to do it.
yeah.
So we're catching up on 2021, and we're going to start this episode with one of the most critically acclaimed films of 2021, Jane Campion's *The Power of the Dog*, and or as my hairstylist called it this morning, *Hair of the Dog*, which I also really like as a title, actually. And in this movie, Benedict Cumberbatch stars as a rugged rancher named Phil Burbank, who becomes enraged when his brother George, played by Jesse Plemons, brings home a new wife and her son. The wife is played by Kirsten Dunst, and her son, in quite a revelatory performance, is played by Cody Smith McPhee, who I'd seen as a youngster in many movies. I mean, when I looked him up, I realized, oh, I have seen him in a lot of movies, but here it's the first time I feel like in his career he's really just come alive on the screen and really does a standout performance. This is a really interesting movie because it's a sort of western, but it's Jane Campion, and so it's a really much deeper and evolved film than you might be expecting. The first half of the film, as I was watching this, Ernie, I was thinking Benedict Cumberbatch seems really weird for this role. You would think of a rugged rancher type. He didn't quite fit it at first, and at first I thought that the casting was odd. But then, as the film and the storyline and the secrets behind his character start to unravel before you, you realize, okay, now this makes sense. He is this kind of force of nature, this just toxic kind of ultra macho presence who sneers and puts everyone around him down. He's not a likable character, to say the least. And he starts to drive his brother's poor wife, played by Kirsten Dunst, into basically to start drinking. And I don't want to give away too much of the film, but his relationship that starts to develop with her son, as I mentioned, played by Cody Smith McPhee, is very interesting. And that character, who at first you just see as sort of this maybe artistic, sensitive, slightly feminine young man, he becomes a very interesting character who also has many of his own surprises. So, needless to say, I loved this movie. I loved the cinematography, the beautiful vistas shot. It's supposed to be Montana. They shot it in New Zealand, but you don't really miss that at all. I mean, it looks like a rugged mountainous area, and I loved all the performances and just the great writing.
Yeah, I this was the last film that I saw at Telluride, which was a little bit odd. There are some things in the film that I don't know how much we want to get into, but things that you know at the last day of Telluride, they usually have a film that's free in the park that's there, and it seems to usually be a little more a more accessible film or something that's maybe a little more upbeat. So I thought this was kind of an odd choice. I mean,
Yeah,
it's an
I wouldn't call it
amazing film.
upbeat. Yeah,
It's an amazing film. Yeah, it's definitely not upbeat at all. And it was interesting to see there were people sort of slowly, at different points in the film, kind of leaving. It's a slow burn film,
yeah.
um,
You have to have
which I
patience with this one.
yeah, which I feel being on Netflix, it's so easy to get distracted and do other things. So I hope people give it a shot. Uh, I do want to mention, there is some animal cruelty that I was a little bit, I wasn't prepared for. I mean, it's not, I've seen much worse.
Oh
But
yeah,
if you're not prepared for it, it was a
jarring.
little shocking, a little jarring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
And I
that
don't
might
want
turn
to.
off some people.
It's true. Yeah, I think that's true. That's a good point to bring up. I think um, it's a, it's gotten a lot of attention because of the exploration of toxic masculinity that's portrayed in the movie. And I think you're right. I think it's unfortunate. It is showing in theaters simultaneously, but I do feel like this is a much better movie to see in the theater if you can, or if you watch it at home, just make yourself put your phone away. Pretend you're
Hmm.
in the theater, go in the
Yeah.
dark. And this is what I did. I just said no interruptions for 2 hours. I'm not going to look at my phone because I knew it's Jane Campion, and as I knew I was just going to want to
Yeah.
be completely attentive because it's a very easy, you're right, with things like Netflix to just watch 20 minutes, think, oh, this is boring, it's not going anywhere, blah, 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 and then turn it off. And this is a movie that's really reaps payoffs as the characters develop.
Oh yeah.
I was pretty much my jaw. I knew enough about the movie going in. I try not to read in depth reviews before I see something afterwards, then I will. But I knew enough that I knew a little bit about the Benedict Cumberbatch character and some of his secrets, but I didn't know anything about the Cody Smith McPhee character and where that was going. And so that really, my jaw hit
Or
the floor at the end of the movie.
yeah,
Let's just say
yeah,
that.
which is definitely one of the best sort of twist reveal endings I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, big time, big
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I have to bring up the music. Johnny Greenwood, who is becoming one of my favorite film
Mm-hmm.
composers, to the point where even if I don't know it's his music, if I'm watching a movie he scored, I think, wow, the music is really good in this movie. It doesn't suck at all, unlike a lot of movie music. And then at the end, his name will come up, and I'll go, oh, it was Johnny Greenwood again. And so he really, the kind of the cello and the dark atmospheric music he uses, but it's not the typical orchestration we're used to in movies. I just thought lended a lot of kind of that sinister atmosphere that the movie kind of builds up to.
Yeah, it definitely that and Spencer for people that have seen Spencer. Again, the music does a really good job of a lot of the emotional heavy lifting. Um,
Yeah.
but cinematography is amazing. I think is for sure going to get a nomination, and so that right there alone, I think, is worth seeing on the big screen.
Yeah. And I love seeing Kirsten Dunst in movies again. I've always been a fan of hers. I always thought she was unfairly sort of, I don't know. It's nice to see her acting again and getting a decent
Mhm.
role with some meat on it. She's great in the film. All the actors bring their A game. Jesse
And
Plemons just isn't in it
I like
much.
Jesse Plemons. I like him
Yeah.
ever since Friday Night Lights. I liked him in Judas and the Black Messiah. He's become quite a good character actor. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So this is a 4-star film for me. Might make my top 10 of the year. Who knows? We'll see. I haven't put my get list together yet because I'm still assembling, but definitely a 4-star film for me.
yeah, 4 star for me as well. And I think without a doubt, top 10, probably even top five for me. Yeah, yeah.
Is Spencer still your number one as of now? I didn't know
Spencer
if you've
is still
seen
my
some new
number
one.
one. I
Okay.
haven't seen Licorice Pizza. I think Licorice Pizza might be the only film left that could dethrone it. Um, but no, Power of the Dog, I think maybe even top three. We'll see. I do have to say the one thing that that kind of knocked it, but obviously not enough to take a star away, is the Cumberbatch character. I don't want to say too much, but he is so. It's all about toxic masculinity, and he is such, like you said, a macho man. He they do they put him so far one way that there's going to be more to his character. I'm trying to say it without giving it away. So
You're right.
when the reveal does happen about his character, it wasn't a surprise. It was like, okay,
Right,
of
because it's
course,
so far in that end. Yeah, yeah,
because he's so
exactly.
far one way. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, I get
and
it.
and it's
But it's
almost
also
cliche.
realistic for guys that are like that. I've
It
actually
is
known a
realistic, but
few. Yeah.
it is. I felt a little cliche. I've seen so many um uh, again, I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, I know it's hard.
I've seen a lot of LGBT movies that have that type of character who ends up being
Yeah, yeah. No, I get what you're
another
saying.
way. Yeah, that it wasn't, you know, but that's minor. That's a minor
Right. Yeah.
thing.
Good. Yeah, it's a great film. So we'll move on to our next one, which I think you've got.
Yeah, so Old Henry is another Western. This stars Tim Blake Nelson. This is a director that I've actually never, not too familiar with his work. I think this is his second film. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but it's Potsy. We're probably gonna mangle his last name. Ponciroli. So I don't know too much
Ponciroli is what
about.
I was
Yeah,
guessing. So good job.
yeah. Tim Blake. This is all Tim Blake Nelson show. You know, he executive produced this film. He's again talking of character actors. He's one of the best character actors, and I think this is, him in a lead role that that he was just kind of born to play. He just sort of he does this sort of hangdog thing to
Yeah.
perfection. And so he plays this, older sort of farmer. This is again a western. Him and his son are sort of on this farm, and of course he has a past that comes back. And it starts out by meeting. There's a stranger who claims he's a sheriff. He has some money. He's injured. He sort of winds up at the farm, and they sort of take him in and take care of him. And then, of course, these guys are coming after this guy. And sort of all these things are revealed, and we get the reveal, again, another twist ending, which is a really amazing twist ending of the Tim Blake Nelson character. And also a really good supporting role for Stephen Dorff. Stephen Dorff, who I almost, not unrecognizable, but I totally wasn't expecting him to be in the film, and it was a nice little surprise to see him in the film. Another actor that I think sort of is underused. So
Yeah, for sure. And he's a great villain. So
he's a great villain. Yeah. So again, another slow burn sort of western. It was. I don't even remember it being in theaters. I don't even. It didn't play any real festivals. I think it played Venice, and then just sort of disappeared, and just sort of
yeah.
maybe was out for like a week, and then is just kind of got dumped out there. So I really hope. I'm glad we had a chance to highlight some of these films that people should seek out. So I think it's on VOD. I don't think it's on a streaming platform per se, but it's a rental for now. And
Right.
if
But
you
but Amazon just lowered the price of it. So it's pretty cheap right
okay,
now. So I found out because it was
is
originally
it
really high. Yeah.
is it in
I
the
think it's like
sub $10?
yeah, it's like three, I think it was either
Oh,
$3 or $4. So I was able to
oh,
watch
that's
it
great.
for,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a box office critic or box office reporter, and he says that westerns have a really strong VOD life, and that's why a lot of them are actually getting made. And then he brought up the Alec Baldwin movie. He's like, that's why this Alec Baldwin movie was getting made, because they do so well on VOD. Um,
Interesting.
yeah,
I
I thought that
didn't
was
think
really
about
interesting.
that. I just wondered if they were coming back. I was actually kind of excited this year. We've had several excellent Westerns on. My last episode, we reviewed The Harder They Fall, which I gave 4 stars and loved, which is on
Hmm.
Netflix with Idris Elba, Regina King, a bunch of other people, tons of people, but loved that film. Totally different style Western than this one, which is much more of almost a classic Western, Old Henry. I'm so glad you pointed this one out to me, though, because Tim Blake Nelson is one of those actors. I could pretty much watch him in anything. I think the last movie I saw him in where he got a meaty role was The Ballad of Buster Scruggs by the Coen brothers.
Hmm.
Um, where he got like a sizable, he's often the guy that one of those people that people point to, oh, I remember that guy, I've seen him in 100 films, but they always can't
Yeah,
remember his name. So
yeah.
for him to get a lead role was really cool. The only flaw I found in this film that kind of knocked it down for me to more of a 3.5 star level was the casting of the son. His son is kind of a major role. It's played by some young actor who I didn't know named Gavin Lewis. He's kind of a pretty boy. And maybe that was purposeful, but it seemed really jarring that he's supposed to be Tim Blake Nelson's son. I thought, I don't know, the mother must have been a supermodel. So that's what I kept thinking. Because this kid is like smooth, like he just came out of the cover of a magazine. And then there's Tim Blake Nelson over there all haggard and one eye open. And it's just like, what is going on? And he's the whole thing is that he sheltered his son. His son's never held a gun. And, so as these villainous characters come up to threaten their farm, he's got to kind of, have these moments. But his son just got on my nerves. Like everything he said to do, like, don't stand near the window. And then the son would go stand near the window. And I was just like, oh my God, would
Yeah.
someone just shoot this kid already? He was driving me crazy.
Well, see that's what I took it as the son being sort of naive and just sort of being like you said, like he's sheltered and you know not not as wise to the way that the world is.
Yeah, but I don't care who
Um,
you are. If there's three guys standing in front of my house with guns, I'm not going to go, huh, and go stand in front of the window. I mean, just come on. And also, I was like, you're in a Western, dude. Get know your genre. Act a little smarter. But other than that, I mean, as a vehicle for Tim Blake Nelson, as like you said, a
yeah.
surprise ending, which I did not see coming, and a great villain character played by Stephen Dorff. And this is another one you could see. It was probably also very low budget. It's essentially one set, this house with the
This
land, a
house.
little bit of
Yeah.
it's in this valley with the land around it. A handful of characters. There's what, like 5, 6 people in the whole movie.
Mhm.
So it shows you can make a great looking movie. It looks fantastic. Put a fantastic character actors for lead and make a decent movie, which cost, you know, probably what Angelina Jolie's shoes in the Marvel movie cost
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
for the whole
Yeah.
movie or something. So I mean, so I really appreciate you pointing this out because I'd never heard of it at all. I was shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I only reason I heard of it was I didn't know of Talk Cinema, if that's a screening series there in Portland, but it's a screening series here in Scottsdale, and they usually do some sort of like these festival films. And so when that popped up as Old Henry, again, I had never heard of this film until it popped up, and I missed it. And then maybe about 2 weeks later, it was in theaters again. Blink and you'll miss it. And so I was like, wow, I gotta go check this out. What's the deal?
Yeah, yeah,
And
and
there's
it's
a lot of good.
interesting.
There is some good action. It is a sort of a slow burn movie in the beginning. A real nice character study where you're kind of setting up all these pieces, but then the last half there's a lot of action. So
Oh yeah,
if
some good
if you
shoot 'em
if
up
you
scenes.
yeah if you like some action, just stick with it, and
Second
everyday
half, yeah, a
western
lot
violence.
more for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it plays real well. It's a good entertaining film. I never got bored, so I think a great pick. Yeah, I feel like a lot of
mhm,
these movies, they go to film festivals. It's just hard. Certain movies go in, the studios have so much marketing and to put so much buzz behind a certain movie, and
mhm,
stuff like this gets lost, which is unfortunate.
yeah. Okay. King Richard. Now for something completely different.
Yeah,
So
not a
this
Western.
was, yeah, not a Western. I think people probably know about this, but if they don't, this is the story of Venus and Serena Williams's father, Richard, played by Will Smith. Venus and Serena acted as producers on the film. This played at Telluride, getting a lot of buzz. I think Will Smith is probably, a favorite for Best Actor Oscar. I don't have to say too much. I mean, it's a biopic. It's a sports pick. I did not like this film. It's pretty much hits all those biopic sports pick cliches. Uh, it's over 2.5 hours long. I don't know why it was that long.
Yeah, it's overly long for sure.
It's really long and predictable, like I said. And then I had a lot of problems with a lot of elements of the film. We probably don't have enough time to get to all of them. Ultimately, I feel like I want to see a movie about Venus and Serena. Why am I watching a movie about their dad? Like
Yeah.
I don't two of the greatest female athletes, and I'm watching a movie about a man. It just doesn't.
Right.
Um,
Now they produced it and they wanted the story to be about their father. So I mean there
yeah,
is that, but I agree with you. They would be interesting. You can see so it's interesting. I think this one and the next one we're going to really have big fights on because not big fights. I will say that I expected to hate this movie based on all the critics I respect disliking it. And I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. So this is sort of in that 2.5 to 3 star territory for me. I really expected to not like it because Will Smith bats, I mean, not a great percentage for me in terms of the films he makes. What I liked about it, I'll start with that, is that I didn't really know anything about their backstory, their faith, and the way they were raised. And I thought it was interesting to give the perspective of the things he had to go through from a marketing and business way perspective
hmm
to kind of sell them to a sports empire that's primarily white, and the way he would go in and the way he was making these, these tapes of them and sending them to all these people and just completely, just like relentlessly pursuing this dream that he had for them. And then the two girls I thought that played Venus and Serena were fantastic. I'd never seen them in any movies before, but I thought they not only looked like the sisters, but their performances were great. So those were the good parts. Will Smith, I mean, some of the critics I follow thought he was terrible. I just thought he was fine. I didn't think he was terrible. I didn't think it was an Oscar worthy performance, though, either. It's overly long. The worst parts about it for me, the number one, the tennis shots. The way they photographed the tennis sequences were very dull and lifeless, which is the opposite of what you feel when you actually watch Venus or Serena play. I thought, wow, they didn't capture the energy. I mean, when they go out on the court, I mean, I'm not a tennis or sports fan, but I've seen them play because they're literally like the most famous. It's like not knowing who LeBron James is in NBA. You don't have to follow basketball to know who he is. They're like that level where everybody knows who they are. And when they go out on the court, they're just dynamic to watch. And the movie didn't capture that. There's ways to do sports photography in movies, and whoever filmed, the director of this, I felt like honestly didn't know, does much better with the smaller human moments where it's just conversations between people than they did with the action sequences. And then I think the movie also did way too much of covering up, because I looked up some things about Richard after the movie, the multiple divorces, the multiple marriages with different people, so there's some ugly stuff that's completely taken out of the movie,
Yeah,
obviously.
and that's ultimately what I felt like this was, the Williams sisters sort of writing the legacy of their father. This was their, I mean, you can call it propaganda, you can call it whitewashing or whatever. That's exactly what I felt, is that, they're at the point where, okay, we're going to write his legacy instead of someone else. And I felt that was their ulterior motive. And it just, it didn't work for me. And
yeah.
And you're right. Will Smith, he's fine. I mean, I think he's a little hammy and over the top. Definitely not Oscar worthy, but it's the sort of, you play a real character and you do a voice, and I don't know, you get an Oscar nomination.
Right. You put a little pounds on. He looks a little scruffier than usual. It doesn't look as movie starish, but he didn't distract me. I felt like he got, because he's Will Smith, maybe people were I don't know what they were expecting, but I mean, I thought he was fine. I just didn't think it was an Oscar worthy performance. And I don't think the movie is a fantastic movie, but I expected to dislike it more than I did. I did find the business part of it to be the most interesting for people, because I think they often just think, oh, people get famous and that's, and it's like, no, this took a lot of work. Like, he had to convince people, even though they were so good, that they were able to break through the racism of the tennis industry. So yeah, so we'll move on to our next film, Come On, Come On, by director Mike Mills. And this is about a radio journalist played by Joaquin Phoenix, who is charged with taking care of his young nephew when his sister is in the middle of a family crisis. His sister's played by Gabby Hoffman, an actress I absolutely adore and never get to see enough of on the screen. In fact, I had to look her up when I was talking about this movie to my husband to see. The last movie I saw her in was probably 2015 or 14 or something. So yeah, I love seeing her on screen. Now, Mike Mills is a director I really love. He doesn't make a lot of movies. His last film, 20th Century Women, was in my top 10 of that year. So I went into this film with really high expectations. And I really liked this movie. I think, Ernie, that you're probably going to say something a little different than me. Not a 4-star movie, just slightly under that for me. I'm giving it 3.5 stars. And I think there's a lot going on in this movie. There's the kid and his nephew and the relationship, which I think is going to appeal to a lot of the parents out there who are going to watch this and find that dynamic very interesting. The kid may or may not grate on you. I found it to be a pretty realistic depiction of a child. He's got a lot of energy. He's pretty annoying at times. That's how kids can be. I'm not a parent, but for me, the part that really resonated was the relationship between him and his sister and some of the family dynamics that were going on with a passing of a parent. I'm at the age now that myself and my friends, a lot of us are going through these types of things with parents, aging parents. And so I could really relate with that aspect of it. And then also having kind of mental health crises in your family. So there were aspects of it I really, really loved.
I wanted to smack that kid so hard, so many times. I would be a horrible parent because, the first time when he loses him in the store, and the kid is sort of playing a little joke on him, and I would have beat that, out of him. I'm like, that was not funny at all. I just it's interesting. There was a number of films at Telluride that all kind of had the same theme of, being a parent sucks. like this and Lost Daughter were all about like I think all these filmmakers are spending time with their kids in lockdown. And
Yeah,
they realize how much it sucks being a parent, so they're making movies about that. Joaquin Phoenix, I thought his performance, I thought he did a really
just
great job.
terrific.
He's just amazing. He's I've loved him again since Space Camp. So completely different. Yeah, he kind of gets deemed as being like this crazy nutball guy, and I'm sure he is. But I think his performances on screen from Joker to this, I think
Shows the
there's
absolute range, right? Like,
yeah,
and I love him
absolute
more in
range
this kind of, I love
exactly.
him more in this movie than Joker because you hear
Yeah.
it's harder to underplay, right? And here he's got to act with a kid, which is really hard.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
and he's got to come off. I mean, he's just so convincing in the scenes, not just with this kid, but then there's throughout the movie, Mike Mills also intersperts real interviews with real children in
Hmm.
different cities, specifically New York and New Orleans, and because his character is kind of like an NPR-ish style radio journalist who's asking children their thoughts on the future. None of that is scripted. It's all the kids' real thoughts. And I thought those scenes were terrific as well. And
Yeah.
he uses this gorgeous black and white photography to kind of make it timeless. I felt like it's now, but it could be any time, And so
Yeah.
I liked that as well, especially since his last film was much more of a period piece. So I loved those dynamics, and I just loved the dynamic with his sister, who is battling some mental health issues in her family and struggling to raise her child on her own. And then he's this person who, as a journalist, I also really liked that he loves to interview people and get into their lives, but he doesn't like to talk about himself. And since I, was a journalist for many years, I could really relate with a lot of that.
Hmm.
So I thought Joaquin Phoenix just did a great job with the movie in general.
Yeah, no, I felt the parts with the sister were more interesting than the parts with the kid. Just the whole thing of like, here is sort of emotionally stunted middle-aged man who's never had kids, who's all of a sudden forced to have a kid or deal with a kid and sort of deal with his emotions. I don't know. I've seen that before, and for that, it just that part of the film did
Didn't
not resonate
resonate
with
for
me.
you.
And
Yeah.
again,
Well,
that kid, oh my God, if that was my
yeah, it's
nephew,
funny, I guess I've seen more annoying kids in movies because there's sometimes those cutesy, like, pandering kids, and those drive me more crazy. To me, he just seems sort of like a realistic kid. But I've seen one of my favorite critics, Odie Henderson, said that he almost found the movie unwatchable because of the child. So I
oh
think
yeah.
it's just,
Oh
yeah,
no. It was I had to leave. I left for it was so and maybe this is a credit to Mike Mills and everyone else. It was so nerve-wracking because again, I put myself in that situation and I was thinking like if I, because I have nieces and nephews and I'm like, "Oh my God, I would
Oh
just
no,
be
when he
horrified."
loses him, my husband
Yeah.
gasped. He was like getting
Yeah.
stressed out. He's like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
where is he?" So yeah, no, it's
So
super stressful, but that's
I
what it
had to
feels like, I'm sure.
yeah, I had to leave for a little
Yeah,
bit and I was like I can't do this. I
yeah.
can't watch this.
So how many stars for you on that one?
I would give it 1 for
One.
for
Oh wow,
Joaquin
I was
Phoenix.
thinking it was like two. Geez,
No,
that's
I
really
know
low.
I'm in the minority on this one. But Joaquin and the
Okay,
cinematography,
that was it
um,
for you. Okay.
give it a 1. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you again, Ernie. We've got to wrap up, but this is a great episode. We have two strong recommendations. We both agree on The Power Dog and Old Henry, and then I can recommend Come On, Come On. I don't think either of us can recommend King Richard. So go see those, seek those out. And thanks again for joining me. We have got to go through the credits really fast. RealFilmSnobs.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. Thanks as always to our fantastic crew, sponsors. We're on CC Media, Scan TV, Corvallis Access Media, KMUZ Radio, and KMWV. Have a great day and great movies.